여러분 안녕하십니까?
Hello everyone, it's time for the Genesis lecture.
지난주 창세기
Last time we talked about Genesis chapter 27, and this time we'll continue talking about Genesis chapter 27. Last time, in the fourth lecture, we discussed the words in Genesis chapter 27, and last time, in Genesis chapter 27, we spoke about verse 11. Jacob said in front of his mother, "I am a smooth man." And through saying this, he is a smooth man, how in our heart, what heart it is showing, what form of heart it is showing in our hearts, and we spoke about that. When Jacob was born, he was a smooth man, and we all, as well, when we were born, from our birth, we already lost the faith to believe in God. From birth, we were born as the children of Adam and Eve, who ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So our nature is that of lost faith, with eyes open to a standard of good and evil. So when we go before God, "I am righteous and I am holy," is something we find impossible to say in our thoughts. Because I'm lacking, and because our actions are wrong, that's why we can't say that. But if we look at it carefully, we can see that between us and God, that relationship of faith is broken. So our nature now has formed this standard of good and evil. So even when we want to say that we are righteous, when we want to admit that, something in our heart says, "Hey your actions have to be good. You have to do something well." That thought comes up, and so that thought keeps us from having the faith that we are righteous. So we cannot admit before God that we are righteous. Just like that, Jacob in front of his father, he can go out and receive a blessing, but in his heart, if he doesn't have clear faith, then he cannot go before his father. When he says, "I am a smooth man," that is when we speak about. So being a smooth man, saying that, it's expressing a heart that is under the law. And that's what we spoke about. So today, we will continue. So if we are like that, doesn't that faith in our heart, when we don't have that, then how can we escape from Genesis chapter 27? It's showing us that as well. So here, Jacob says to his mother, "I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing." When he said this, what does his mother say to him? And his mother said unto him, "Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice and go fetch me them." So the mother tells Jacob this. So inside this mother's word, inside of her, she has faith. When she says, "Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice and go fetch me them." When Jacob went before his father and said that he is Esau, many people think he deceived his father. Isn't it lying? That's what they say. That's what many people think. But one thing we must look at here is, when Jacob said this to his father, he did not use his own methods or his own way when he went before his father. So, he had a clear faith in his heart. And what faith did she have? In Genesis chapter 25, God spoke to Rebekah before Jacob and Esau were born. While they were still in her womb, God gave her a promise. And so, just like we talked about Genesis 25 before, God said to her, "Inside of you there are two nations, and the older shall serve the younger." And God made that promise to Rebekah, and that promise she had received, and it was inside her heart, and that was faith in her heart, which says it doesn't matter what Jacob's actions were, because God made the promise that Jacob can receive a blessing from God. So through these words, when we go before God, or as we receive that righteousness from God, it's 100% doesn't have anything to do with our actions. Through these words, we can see this as well. So when Rebekah says, "Upon me be thy curse," these words mean that inside her heart she has faith, and this faith is allowing her to say this, "Upon me be thy curse." Her words, they become faith inside of Jacob's heart, and he is able to say, "I am not a smooth man." Inside of his heart, he can also escape from that. So last time, this Jacob said, "I am a smooth man." And these words that he said are expressing a heart that is under the law. When we look at Galatians, okay, now let's look at Galatians. Last time as well, we looked in Galatians chapter 3 verse 10, "For as many are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, Cursed is everyone who continueth not in all things that are written in the book of the law." Now these things are talking about the words that are in Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 26, that's what it's talking about. So if you look there, it says, in verse 26 it says, "Cursed be he that confirmeth not all the words of this law to do them." And all the people shall say, Amen. So in Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 26, the words written here is also written in Galatians chapter 3 verse 10. So it says, "Cursed be he that confirmeth not all the words of the law to do them." It also says, "For as many are of the works of the law are under the curse." And that's what it's showing us here. So last time, like we said, when we were born in this world, we lost faith, and our eyes became open to good and evil, as we were born as the children of Adam and Eve. So we as well are trapped inside the works of the law under the curse. So when it says here, "Cursed be he," that means we are born under that curse. So if you look in Deuteronomy 21 verse 23, chapter 21 verse 23, it says, let's look at verse 23, Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 23, "His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance." It's saying that he that is hanged on a tree is accursed of God. So we are trapped under the work of the law, so we are born under a curse. So here, in Deuteronomy 21 verse 23, it says, "So ye that are hanged is cursed of God." So I'm saying this again. This word is expressing Jesus Christ being nailed to the cross and dying there. It's talking about that. So this Jesus, when he is nailed to the cross and he dies, the word in Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 23, it's being accomplished. "For he that is hanged is accursed of God." So Jesus Christ, he accomplished this work here through his death. So the scripture in Romans, I was talking about it. So in Romans chapter 10, it's Romans chapter 10, in verse 4, it says, "For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to every one that believeth." So Christ is the end of the law. That's what it's saying here. What's that talking about? In Deuteronomy, the people that are underneath the works of the law are underneath a curse. That's what it tells us. So all things in the law, if you break just one thing, it's a curse. So we were people that were under that curse. But he that is hanged on a tree is accursed of God. Just as that says Jesus, he accomplished that word. So according to that curse under the law, Jesus accomplished and fulfilled that requirement of the law on the cross. So according to this word, Christ is the end of the law. So Christ, he accomplished everything that the law required on the cross. So he ended it. So on the cross, through his death, that cross became the end of the law. So this Galatians, what it's saying in chapter 3, verse 10 again is, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. So in verse 13, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. So through Christ he has finished what was required of the law. It's finished. So in verse 13 it says, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. So here in Deuteronomy, what it says is, everyone that hangeth on a tree is accursed of God. So Christ, when he died on the cross, it's talking about this in Galatians, that Christ fulfilled it. So this requirement of the law, that curse, it is finished. It was done. So we who were underneath the law, he has saved us. So in this word it says, we have received Christ and everything is finished under the law. So when we are redeemed, when a slave is redeemed, it's saying that it's saying that his price is paid and he is made free. He is redeemed. So Christ, he has redeemed us from the curse of the law. How? He was cursed for us by the law, so he redeemed us. So being redeemed by the law, what does that mean? So when you look at the standard of the law and the standard of good and evil that I have in my heart, or if I look at the standard that is in my conscience, I have done many things wrong, and I am lacking many things. Oh, I am lacking so much. You know, I am like this, so how can I say that I'm righteous? I'm not righteous, so I'm trapped in my own lacking. But that curse under the law, Christ has received it for us, so it's finished now. So the standard of good and evil, you did something wrong, or I did something right. Doing good and bad, he has received that curse. So it doesn't matter if you are good or bad, or what you have done. So if you escape from that, then you can go before God boldly, because Jesus has made you that way. And that word is saying, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. So here, if you look in Genesis chapter 27, in chapter 27, Rebekah, the mother, says to her son Jacob, upon me be thy curse. Only obey my voice and bring me them. This mother Rebekah is a shadow of Jesus Christ here. So this Jacob, he is going out to receive a blessing from his father, but he has no qualifications, no reasons to receive that blessing in and of himself. Esau, his older brother, is different from Jacob, the younger brother. He hunts well and he does many things well. So this younger brother, Jacob, He cannot be as good as his older brother Esau, so he has no qualifications to receive a blessing. But the reason he can receive a blessing from his father is the faith inside of his mother. So because of his mother, Jacob could receive that blessing. So Jacob to his mother says, "Upon me be thy curse. Obey my voice and fetch me them." So in those few words, "Upon me be thy curse," if you open that up and say it again, let's say you go to your father and your father touches you and you are revealed to your father. Let's say your father curses you and that curse, "Upon me be that curse." You doing something well to receive a blessing, that's not what it is. When you go before your father and when you are revealed to be a smooth man, because of that, if your father curses you, "Upon me be that curse." So now the problem of being a smooth man, being smooth or not, that problem is now the mother's problem. So him being smooth or not being smooth, he can go out before his father. It doesn't matter. So that's in our hearts as well. That's because we have the standard of good and evil open in our eyes. Our eyes are open to that, so for our whole life, this standard, it continually moves. And so that standard of good and evil makes you think, "Oh, your actions are lacking. Oh, you did this wrong." When you put those thoughts in, you said, "Oh, because of that standard, I was wrong. I'm lacking. I have committed sin. My actions are this way. But my mother said that. Let that curse be on me." So good or bad, doing well or not, that's not my problem, it's my mother's problem. Those few words that Jacob's mother said, if he believes those words or not, if he has faith, it doesn't matter. Before he believes his mother's words, Jacob was tied to being a smooth man. In our hearts as well, until we have faith, we cannot help but being tied down to the law. And that standard of good and evil can only tie us up. But after we have faith, faith is very simple. Jacob, he didn't work hard to believe. His mother's word came to him as faith. So Jacob's mother's words became faith to his heart. And after it became faith, then if you look at Jacob, he's still smooth. But his problem is no longer his own problem. It's his mother's problem. So right when it becomes his mother's problem, Jacob could leave all these things to his mother's hand. So then, Jacob goes to his father and says, "I am Esau." He can say this now because he has faith in his mother's word. That's why he can admit it in this way. So for us in this scripture, if we look at Romans, what does it say about this? Okay, about this, it says in Romans chapter 10, let's look there. Chapter 10, verse 8. This is what it says. "But what saith it? The word is nigh, even in thy mouth, and in thy heart, that is, the word of faith which we preach." So here in verse 8, is talking about the righteousness which comes by faith. By keeping the law, through the actions of the law, working hard to be righteous through the works of the law, that's not the righteousness that's mine, but the righteousness that comes through faith. That's mine. It's talking about the righteousness through faith. So what is the righteousness through faith? What's it talking about? It says, "But what saith it? The word is nigh even in thy mouth and in thy heart." In this word, it's talking about Jacob. If you look at it, how can he go before his father, and how can he have faith? It's not far away from him that he can do this. It's close to him. It's right next to him. It's in his mother. This means his mother has faith. But what says it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is, the word of faith which we preach. It's saying here that we preach this word of faith. So, inside the mother's heart there is faith. So when the mother speaks these words of faith, upon me be thy curse. She said, only obey my voice and bring me them. Those are words of faith. And so these words of Rebekah became faith inside of Jacob's heart. So these words of faith inside the heart, Jacob expresses those words with his mouth and goes before father and says, I am Esau. So he went before his father, and his father asked Jacob, who are you? And he answered, I am Esau. And again his father asked, are you really my son Esau? And Jacob said, yes. So Jacob, he was able to say that because his mother's words was faith in his heart. Let's think about this. If Jacob did not have faith in his mother's words, and his mother says, hey Jacob, go out before your father and receive a blessing from him, Jacob would say, but what if father feels me? I'll receive a curse. And then what would happen? When he said that, if his mother said something without faith, but we have to work hard. We have to work hard at it. Don't worry about it. And she would still worry about it. If she had said something without faith, then it would have been very dangerous for Jacob to go before his father. But Rebekah didn't say something with a method or a way, but she said, upon me be thy curse. In other words, I'll be responsible for it. That's what the mother said. And that word of faith, that's what she said. So that faith was transferred to Jacob's heart, and he went before his father and said, I'm Esau, and he could answer that way. So now for us, today, through Genesis chapter 27, through these words, when Jacob didn't have faith, the heart that he had was, I am a smooth man. This heart is a heart that is tied to the world of the law, and it's explaining that to us clearly. And so, when the mother spoke to him and said, upon me be thy curse, only obey my voice and bring me them. When she said that, he went and brought them to his mother. So there's nothing here that says the word of faith exactly, but he moves according to his mother's word and goes to the flock and brings a kid of the goats. It means his mother's word became faith to him. So inside the scripture, when we see that we have this heart of faith that rises up inside of us, how that word is being accomplished is being shown to us clearly here in the Bible. In Genesis chapter 27, Jacob and his mother's conversation is showing that the faith is being accomplished inside of Jacob's heart. So in the beginning, Jacob, when he heard his mother's word, he said, I am a smooth man. That's what he said. That word is saying that he has a burdened heart inside his heart. That word, when he goes before his father, he's very burdened by it. That's the heart that he has. But when he listens to his mother's word, from there he has escaped from that burdened heart. So for us also, not only Jacob out of the place of faith, but our heart, our life is the same as that. In our church, there is one married sister, and for 1 year, she witnessed, and she would go witnessing to a certain house, and every time, and she went to that house, she would be witness, and she would be chased out. But still, she kept on going to that house to preach the gospel again and again. So every time she went to preach the gospel that way, she was chased out. And after she witnessed for about a year, and one day she came to me and said, Pastor, whenever I go to see that person, he says, if not today or tomorrow, he will pass away. today or tomorrow he'll pass away now. So now, when he said that to her, when she's heard that, she's asking me to now go to that place to preach the gospel to that person. So when I heard that, on one side I said, you preached for 1 year, but she was chased out. When I heard that, it started to live inside my heart and became a burden to me. And just like Jacob said, I am a smooth man. It was burdensome to me. So on one side, I had this heart not wanting to go. I was kind of holding back. So in my heart, this church member is telling me these things. But God is trying to tell me, He is telling me to go and speak. Go preach the gospel to them. So I received that in my heart. And so just like Jacob said, I am a smooth man, when he had this burdensome heart, when he heard his mother's words and received that, it wasn't just him receiving that word from his mother. That promise that the elder shall serve the younger, she was receiving that word just like that. So here, Jacob, when he heard his mother's word, yes, he is a smooth man, and it's burdensome, but he throws that thought away and follows his mother's words by receiving them. So here, when Jacob goes out by faith, we can go out the same way with our own thought. If we want to go out by faith, something is always holding my ankles, keeping me from going out by faith. And that is my standard. My thoughts that are inside of my heart. I am righteous. God has made me holy. Jesus has made me righteous. So me, when I say that I am righteous, then human nature that is inside my heart, it says, look at your actions. Your actions are not good. Your actions are not righteous. You know, you have to do something well. That is the thought that comes up. But still, Jesus was the curse because of what we did, good or bad. So it doesn't matter if those thoughts come inside you or not. It's not that they don't come up. Even though they do come up, Jesus is the one who received the curse for us. So we have become righteous. And so inside of my life, when I have faith, inside of my heart, I have this thought or that thought that Satan continually comes and he puts thoughts inside of me. Then I don't have faith. Other people can have faith, but I can't have faith. Just like that thought, when it tries to hold your ankle, those thoughts, even though they rise up inside of you, even though Jacob is a smooth man, but the mother says, let your curse be upon me. In front of that, when we put those thoughts down, then we can receive the mother's word as faith. And we can go before God and go and say to Isaac, I am Esau. And Jacob, inside his heart, it became faith. And he admitted those things and said, I am Esau. And just like that, so the mother said, let your curse be upon me. Receiving that with faith, to us, Christ received the curse for us. On the cross, He received the curse for us. And in front of those words, in front of the cross, He has become the end of the law. And that word becomes faith in our hearts and before God. We can admit that we are righteous, and through Genesis chapter 27 today, it says, upon me be thy curse. That word becomes faith in my heart. And so we can escape from that ourselves and stand before God and be blessed like Jacob was in front of his father. And we can be blessed in front of God. And so today, through Genesis chapter 27, we are free from ourselves and free from the law. It's showing us the world of the heart. About that, it's showing us clearly. So this will be the end of our lecture today. Thank you.